Continue what you were teaching.
Right, so get Hosea chapter 2 and we're going to read from verse 14.
Hosea chapter 2, reading from verse 14. Therefore, behold, I will allure her, and bring her into the wilderness, and speak comfortably unto her.
Right, so the scripture says that the Most High is going to bring Israel into the wilderness, right, and he's going to speak comfortably unto her, right, because in the captivities that we're in, the Most High, he gave us the scriptures, right, for comfort. Get the scripture that says things which were written aforetime, right, because that scripture talks about the scriptures being our comfort, right, because they are our comfort in this time. Because when we read it, right, the Most High says that he's going to gather us from wherever we are, right, so they are our comfort in the time that we are in our captivity, right. The words of the Most High, he's comforting us. He's saying it's time for you to return. I'm going to come and collect you, but be prepared so that I can collect you, so that I can take you back.
Romans chapter 15 and verse 4. For whatsoever things were written aforetime were written for our learning,
right,
that we through patience and comfort of the scriptures might have hope.
Right, that we through faith and comfort of the scriptures might have hope, right? Because these things which were which were written aforetime, right, written aforetime, were written so that we could learn, right, and we'd be comforted through them, right, because we'd know that the Most High is giving us understanding and wisdom to be able to live in these times and to be able to avoid the things that are going to come upon the earth, right? That's what they're there for, right? So verse 15.
And I will give her vineyards from thence, and the valley of Achor for a door of hope.
Right.
And she shall sing there as in the days of her youth, and as in the day when she came up out of the land of Egypt.
Right, so the Most High is going to give us that new wine, that new spirit, the vineyards, right? And he's going to give us the valley of Achor, right, for a door of hope, right? Because we were, because if you go down into Israel, the valley of Achor is where the salt sea is, right? And the scripture says that we are the salt of the earth. So the Most High is going to give us that salt back. Right. We are going to become the salt of the earth again, right? That's what we're going to become. It's going to be a hope to us, right? And then we're going to sing as in the days of our youth, like when we were taken out of the land of Egypt. And that's the reason why the scripture says that we're not going to be talking about the time when we came out of Egypt anymore, because this Exodus is going to be greater than the Exodus which happened previously.
I'm sorry for choice of a better word. It's going to trump it. It's going to, not President Trump, he's going to supersede it dramatically, that we're no longer going to talk about it because greater happened.
Yeah, because we're going to be gathered from the four corners of the earth. From the four corners.
That's right.
Right? And this isn't the only scripture that talks about us being comforted, right? So get me Isaiah chapter 40.
Isaiah.
Read from verse 1.
Isaiah chapter 40, reading from verse 1. Comfort ye, my people, saith your God.
Right, so the Most High is saying to Isaiah, comfort my people, right? Read on.
Speak ye comfortably to Jerusalem,
right?
And cry unto her, that her warfare is accomplished, that her iniquity is pardoned, for she have received of the Most High's hand double for all her sins.
Right, so Israel's warfare is accomplished. He was saying that back then, right? This was in the time that they were in the Babylonian captivity, right? All the way back then. So the Most High already had plans in place from back then, because the captivities had started. Judgment had already started from that point, right? And the Most High was saying, your iniquity is going to be pardoned, right? But he's saying comfort them and let them know, right? Because it was for that time, because they were going to go into the Medo-Persian captivity, and from there they were going to be let back to the land. But it's also a comfort for us now, right? Comfort my people, and that's why we have the book of Isaiah today as a comfort to us, right? Because he told Isaiah to comfort the people, right? Verse 3.
The voice of him that crieth in the wilderness, prepare ye the way of the Lord, make straight in the desert a highway for our God.
Right, and we know that John the Baptist, right, said this scripture to make straight the way of the Most High, and we know that the Messiah said that that John the Baptist was Elijah, right? Because it says that he was Elias, right? So the scripture says that he was gonna come back as well and turn the hearts of the children to the fathers and hearts of the fathers to the children, right? Because in this time we were gonna turn back to the old paths, right? And remember, if we are spiritually in the wilderness, right, when we've come out in our mind, that's where the Elijah was, right, to bring us back. So we know that he's brought us, he's turned our hearts back to our fathers, because we've started to bethink ourselves or remember and start to understand the ancient things or the ancient times, because we're looking for the ancient things. We're seeking what the Most High gave us, right? We're seeking the old paths, because beforehand we didn't know who we were. We just accepted that we were slaves. That's what we did. It wasn't until a certain point that we started to look at our history. Mm-hmm. What happened before slavery? Where were we? Where did we come from? Because if we just believed what the heathen had said, we just appeared on slave ships, or we were just living in the jungle, swinging from trees, and that's where they took us from. But because we started to look, right, because our hearts were turned back to our fathers, right, we started to look for our history and started to find out who we are, that we are the Israelites, right, the biblical Israelites that were written of in the scriptures, that we aren't Gentiles, right? So our hearts were turned back to the fathers, right? So read on.
Verse 4. Every valley shall be exalted, and every mountain and hill shall be made low, and the crooked shall be made straight, and the rough places plain, and the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see it together, for the mouth of the Lord hath spoken it.
Right, and every valley shall be exalted, because who's low? Who's the lowest?
Israel.
In every kingdom you go into. So we are spiritually that valley, right? And every mountain, because there's all these kingdoms that are on the earth, they're going to be made low. So there's going to be a shift, and we can see the shift happening now. We can see the shift slowly happening. You can see these kingdoms going down, right? The Most High is bringing them to the brink of war, right? And this war's going to take place.
Right, and I'm just he's going to bring them down to war, and he's going to take them down. But the most important part is that Israelites understand they're in the wilderness of the people. That's where they are, and what's happening now, whilst we're in the wilderness of the people, is that he is determining who is going to. He's doing things to determine who's going to receive the kingdom and who's not going to receive the kingdom. That's what he's doing, because he's going to sieve us amongst all the nations. Okay, he's going to sieve us out from amongst all the nations, because this is what it's about. Understanding the wilderness of the people isn't a location on earth. It isn't a location. And how you know that for a fact is when you get into Revelation. When you get to Revelation, it says that all there will be a multitude of people that will come from all nations, kindreds, and tongues. Right? So it's showing you that he's going to judge us or sieve us in the lands where we are. The wilderness is spiritually understood. Just like Egypt, right? When we get into Revelation, it doesn't say Egypt, it says which is spiritually Egypt, spiritually Sodom, and spiritually Egypt, Sodom and Gomorrah, spiritually, and Babylon, spiritual Babylon, Egypt and Sodom and Gomorrah, spiritual. So when it talks about the wilderness of the people, it's not talking about a literal place.
And what the elders just said there goes perfectly into what the next verse actually says, right? So just read verse 5 for me.
Verse 5. And the glory of the Lord shall be revealed, and all flesh shall see.
And who shall see it?
And all flesh shall see it together.
Right.
For the mouth of the Most High have spoken it.
So this change, all flesh is going to see it. So if we are in the wilderness, a physical wilderness, how's all flesh going to see this thing happening? How's all flesh going to see this change if we're not amongst them? Right? How are they going to see that? Because the scripture says that he's going to set us in order before their eyes. Right? Isaiah 6. Just get me Isaiah 60. Right, and read from verse 1. We're going to read down to verse 3.
Isaiah chapter 60, reading from verse 1. Arise, shine, for thy light is come, and the glory of the Lord is risen upon thee.
Right, so the scripture is telling you to arise, to wake up, right? Because the light of the Most High and the glory of the Most High is risen upon you, meaning that now that the Messiah has come, right, and he's because he's done his work, the Most High sent his Spirit down to us, right? Now that that's happened, now it's time for us to make a move, right? Because the glory of the Most High has come, our light is here now. So even though we're in darkness, we can be a beacon of light to our people, right? Verse 2.
For behold, the darkness shall cover the earth, and gross darkness the people. But the Lord shall rise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee.
Right, so darkness is on the earth, right? And gross darkness the people, right? Because the darkness is that bad, right? It's termed as gross darkness because people are deluded. It's delusion, right? It's literally delusion. But it says, but the Most High shall arise upon thee, and his glory shall be seen upon thee. How is the Most High's glory going to be seen upon us if we're not there? If we're not around them?
And it's not only that. It's not only saying just that. It's saying that the light shall be seen upon you. That means that you come out from the people and you become separated unto the Creator. Okay, that's the wilderness of the people. Okay, when you're out from amongst them, they're around you, but spiritually. You're in a wilderness because they're not believing what you're believing. They're still keeping all the pagan days and the customs, but you're not. You understand the Creator. You love the Creator. You are showing Him by action, not by word, by action. That you hear Him, okay, and that you understand Him, and that you're willing to do what He's saying. That's the wilderness of the people. That's the sieving. That's the sieving. Continue.
So then it says in verse 3, and the Gentiles shall come to thy light.
And they shall come to thy light. And that's what, when you get to the scripture where it says, and they shall cleave to the house of Israel. Okay? They're not going to cleave if all Israelites are in the land of a wilderness.
No.
That don't make any sense. Continue.
And it says, and kings to the brightness of thy rising. Right, so how are they going to see that shift? How are they going to see that change? How are they going to see the brightness, right, or the light if we're not amongst them? Or if we're not around in those areas, right? Get me Zechariah chapter 8 and verse 23.
Zechariah chapter 8 and verse 23. Thus saith the Lord of hosts, in those days it shall come to pass that 10 men shall take hold of all languages of the nations, even shall take hold of the skirt of him that is a Jew,
right?
Saying, we will go with you, for we have heard that God is with you.
Right, so in those days, in the time when we are being gathered together, there's gonna come a time where 10 men are gonna hold on to the skirt of him that is a Jew, right? Out of all languages of the nations, right? Out of all languages of the nations. So if it's the case that we are in a wilderness of the people, how are they gonna, or if we're in some sort of wilderness and we're all gathered together, separated, right? How is this gonna happen?
Right.
Right, because that doesn't make sense then.
Is it a spiritual skirt they're holding on to? Because that's what they must be saying.
Mm-hmm. And then it says, and we will go with you, for we have heard that Yah is with you, right? Because,
and just to answer your question, it's not a spiritual skirt. It would be a non-existent skirt.
Yeah.
It'd be a non-existent skirt because the spiritual skirt is got nothing to do with your garments. It's got nothing to do with your clothes. The spiritual skirt is that they understand and they can see that the light of the Creator is on you. So they're going to say, we want to. So the holding of the skirt just means they understand why we went into captivity. They understood we broke the laws. That's what it means. And they are saying, we know there's a judgment coming because we took you lot into captivity and there's a judgment for us taking you to captivity. So we are going to amend for that. Right? And so we're going to come into the kingdom and we're going to serve you. That's what it means. Okay? So if we're all in the wilderness, that can't happen, is what exactly what you're saying. It can't happen, really. Or carry on what we're saying. So.
Yeah, so the scripture ends out saying that, because they say, we will go with you, for we have heard that Yah is with you, right? Because they're gonna see and understand, right? When we're keeping our or starting to learn our ancient customs, and they start to see them more prevalently, right, around them, they're gonna see that change. They're gonna understand who we are, and they're gonna have to accept it. Right, and there's going to be those that will accept it. Those are the ones that will accept it. But remember, there's going to be some that won't. Right, because the scripture says that the ones that don't are going to be beaten to shivers or broken to shivers. Right, so there's those that will accept it and those that won't. Right, so get me 2 Corinthians chapter 6, and we're going to read verse 17.
2 Corinthians chapter 6, reading from verse 17. Wherefore come out from among them, and be ye separate, saith the Most High, and touch not the unclean thing, and I will receive you.
Right, because when we are in the wilderness of the people, right, which as we've discussed is a spiritual place, right? When you take yourself out of this system and you start to align yourself with Torah in your mind, right? Then
it's about the mindset of the world.
Yeah.
The scripture says anybody who loves the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Okay, so you take your mindset out of the love of the world, and you accept what the Creator has said is the right thing to do in this paradigm that we're living in, and you accept it. That's what it means. Carry on.
Right. So when we do that, we become separate. Right, and then we choose not to do things that the people in the world do. Because remember, on everything now they got bacon. We're not supposed to eat pork, right? They put things out there, right, to keep us down and to keep us low. So we have to be circumspect in terms of what the enemy does. That's why it says to be as wise as a serpent. Right, to be as wise as them, because they'll do anything to keep us down. That's what they will do, right? And don't think that they won't do anything underhanded, because that's what they've done the entire time. That's what they've done the entire time. And yeah, we can't keep everything in the captivities that we're in, right? Because in our money now, they've put pork fat in there, and that's how we in British money. That's how we pay for things, right? So that's something that we can't avoid in terms of having to pay for things, right? But the things that we can avoid, we should try to, or we should do, because the Most High will then see that if we're keeping it in the captivities that we're in, right, in a place where it's hard to keep them, then we're surely going to keep them when it's easy for us to keep them. right? If we're going to try in our captivities, we're definitely going to do it when we're free. Right? So let's go to Revelation chapter 18 and verse 4.
Revelation chapter 18 and verse 4. And I heard another voice from heaven, saying, Come out of her, my people, that ye be not partakers of her sins, and that ye receive not of her plagues.
Right, so you have to come out of the worldly mindset, right? And you have to be separate, because otherwise you'll become partaker of the plagues that are going to come upon the nations.
This is talking about the wilderness of the people. It's saying it's a mindset. It's a mindset. It's not oh, you're going to go into a literal physical wilderness. It's a mindset. Right? When you read the scriptures, when you get to the New Testament, right? Even in the so-called Old Testament, it says the circumcision of the heart. What's the circumcision of the heart? Or the circumcision of the mind? What's that? When you get into the New Testament, it talks about the circumcision of the mind or the heart. What's that? It's a mindset. It's telling you it's spiritually understood. That's what it's telling you. That's what it's telling you. So when it says come out from among them and be ye separate, it's saying it's your mind that comes out. Your body's there, but your mind's gone out of it. You're not doing that anymore. You're not accepting that anymore. That's what it's saying, right?
Right. And get me Proverbs chapter 11 and verse 21.
Proverbs chapter 11, reading from verse 21. Though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not be unpunished, but the seed of the righteous shall be delivered.
Right, so this is the reason why you have to separate yourself from the love of the world, right? Because you might think, oh, that this person is right, but in actuality, they love the world, they love the system, they're comfortable in the system, right? So if people are joining hands with the other nations, right, when they're keeping these pagan ideologies and they love this system, then you'll be taken with them, right? Because the wicked isn't going to be unpunished. So when the scripture says be not, so that you're not partakers of her plagues, it's also talking about this, right? Because the wicked is going to be punished. If you're in the vicinity or if you're around them, right, then surely that punishment will come upon you as well, because you're accepting what they're doing by joining hand in hand with them, right? Get me Psalm chapter 50 and verse 21.
Psalm chapter 50, reading from verse 21. These things hast thou done, and I kept silent. Thou thoughtest that I was altogether such an one as thyself.
Right, because this scripture here in Psalm 50 is mainly talking to Esau, right? Because it talks about him slandering his own mother's son, right? Which is what Esau has done from the beginning, and even now he demonizes us in the news, in the media, and everything all over the world. We've been demonized because that's the propaganda that Esau has put forth in the world, right? Because he's ruling the world at the moment, right? So this is talking to him, because though the Most High has kept silence, right? They thought, oh, the Most High is like us, and that's why they whitewashed all the images, right, to look like them, right, to put forth this whole idea that the Most High is like them, but he's not like them, right? And what does it say he's going to do?
But I will reprove thee and set them in order before thine eyes.
Right, so we're definitely going to be set in order before the eyes of Esau, right? We're going to be set in order before the eyes of the nations, because they are all in collusion, right?
And the important point about this is when he says he's going to set us in order before their eyes, he's saying that for us to be set in order before their eyes, right, you have to understand that we're in the wilderness. Because in the wilderness, the scripture says he's going to cause us to pass under the rod. Get the scripture, get that scripture where he says he's going to get rid of the rebels, and then he's going to cause us to pass under the rod. So how are we going to be set in order before their eyes if we're in a separate wilderness? That don't make any sense. Don't make any sense. When he says he's going to cause us to pass under the rod, he means he's going to make a covenant with us. He's going to come and collect us and bring us back into the land. But only those Israelites who woke up and didn't want to do anything to prove to the Creator that they loved Him. They're Israelites, but they're only Israelite in name only. They're going to wake up, but they're not going to enter into the land, right? Mm-hmm. Have you got it? Mm-hmm. Read it.
Ezekiel chapter 20 and verse 35.
Right.
And it says, "And I will bring you into the wilderness of the people,
right,
and there will I plead with you face to face, like as I pleaded with your fathers in the wilderness of the land of Egypt. So will I plead with you, saith the Most High Power, and I will cause you to pass under the rod."
He's going to set us in order. And passing under the rod is Him setting us in order. Read on.
"And I will bring you into the bond of the covenant."
Into the bond of the covenant. He's going to set us in order. Read on.
"And I will purge out from among you the rebels."
And He's going to sieve the house of Israel in the lands of their captivities. Okay? It's not a mystery. There's no separate land all of Israel is going to be going to for this to happen. Right? Continue.
So get me Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 3.
Isaiah
chapter 2 and verse 3.
Book of Isaiah chapter 2 and verse 3. "And many people shall go and say, Come ye, and let us go up to the mountain of the Lord, to the house of the God of Jacob, and He will teach us of His ways, and we will walk in His paths.
Right.
For out of Zion shall go forth the law, and the word of the Lord from Jerusalem."
Right, so unless they, like we were saying before, unless they see the change, and unless they understand, right, unless they see the salvation, and because the scripture talks about the strangeness of our salvation, right, and we'll go into that in a moment, but the scripture talks about the strangeness of our salvation. If they don't see that, right, it's not going to kick them into that mode to say, wow, we need to go up to learn about the Most High, because if we don't, then judgment is going to come on us, right, and we're going to get destroyed, right. So they have to see these things for that to come to pass, right. Get Micah chapter 4 and verse 2.
Micah chapter 4 and verse 2. "And many nations shall come and say, Come and let us go up to the mountain of the Most High, and to the house of the power of Jacob, and He will teach us of His ways, and we will walk in His paths. For the law shall go forth of Zion, and the word of the Most High from Jerusalem."
So the scripture is saying the same thing, right, and it just reaffirms it, right, that all the nations are gonna come up. But how are they gonna understand, or how are they gonna know? It's because they're gonna see the brightness and the rising of the nation of Israel. They're going to see it, right? Get me Psalm 77 and verse 13.
Psalm 77, reading from verse 13. "Thy way, O God, is in the sanctuary. Who is so great a God as our God?
Right?
Thou art the God that doest wonders. Thou hast declared thy strength among the people.
Right?
Thou hast with thine arm redeemed thy people, the sons of Jacob and Joseph, Selah. The waters saw thee, O God, the waters saw thee. They were afraid, the depths also were troubled."
Right, because the Most High has done wonders, has done miracles, and he's showing his power through the signs, right? So when you see all of these things happening on the earth, in terms of the earthquakes, famines, and all of these things, the Most High is showing his strength, right? And he's gonna show more. This is just a little piece of his power and of his glory. So you can imagine, right, how great his glory is gonna be, or how great his vengeance is gonna be when it comes upon the earth, right? And with his arm, he's gonna redeem the nation of Israel, right? And when the nations see him, because the waters represent the nations, and when they see these things, they're gonna be afraid. They're going to be afraid. So that nicely goes into the wisdom of Solomon, right, that I was talking about before, because they're going to see these things, right? They're going to see all of these things happening around them, right? And they're going to be afraid, right? They're going to be afraid, right? So this is Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5. You got it?
Yeah. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 5, reading from verse 1. Then shall the righteous man stand in great boldness before the face of such as have afflicted him, and made no account of his labours.
Right, because no account of our labours was made. We weren't paid for it. We were slaves for 400 years, and there's been no reparations or repatriation for the things that were done to us. There's been no payback. Right, verse 2.
When they see it, they shall be troubled with terrible fear, and shall be amazed at the strangeness of his salvation. So far beyond all that they looked for.
Right, so when they see it, they're going to be afraid, because the salvation they're going to see is going to be so strange. It's going to be something they never ever thought would happen. Right, it's going to be as they would say, out of this world, because it is. It's going to be otherworldly. It's not going to be of this paradigm, of this dimension. Right, verse 3.
And they, repenting and groaning for anguish of spirit, shall say within themselves, this was he whom we had sometimes in derision, and a proverb of reproach. We fools accounted his life madness, and his end to be without honour.
Right.
How is he numbered among the children of God, and his lot among the saints is among the saints.
Right, and when they see our salvation, right, when they see us being gathered from the four corners of the earth, when they see all of these things happening, that's when they're gonna be in terrible fear. Right, that's when they're gonna have to admit, right, that we are the children of Israel. And you've got to remember, if we are in a wilderness, how are they gonna see these things happening? Right. It's not gonna be possible for them to see it, right? Everybody has to see. Everybody has to see this, right? Because the scripture says that everybody will see it. So if everybody's going to see it, how is it going to be that we are all going to be gathered in the wilderness? That doesn't make sense. It doesn't make sense, right? Get me Psalm 110 and verse 6.
Psalm 110 verse 6. He shall judge among the heathen.
He shall judge where?
He shall judge among the heathen.
Right.
He shall fill the places with the dead bodies. He shall wound the heads over many countries.
Right, because the Most High is going to judge among the heathen. And remember the reason why the Most High is pleading with us, right? Or he's pleading with us is because he's telling us now that we need to get ready, right? Because judgment first begins at the house of the Most High. And yeah, we had our judgment first, but the judgment that's coming next you'll still be judged first again, right? You'll still be judged first, and that's what you have to understand, right? So when we're amongst the nations, right, we have to come out of their mindset. We have to change that. Because the wilderness of the people isn't a place, right? We're amongst people now, right? We're in the wilderness of the people. This place doesn't give you anything. There's no, like we were saying, there's no substance here. That's why it's a wilderness. It's desolate.
Oh yeah.
It's desolate. This place doesn't give us anything, right? When we're back in our own place, right? Then the Most High will work with us. The Most High will give us understanding. He'll give us wisdom, right? That will be able. Because remember, the scripture says that. The word or the law shall come forth of Zion, right? So if we're not in Zion, right, how are we going to get full understanding? Or how are we going to get full truth? We're not going to be able to. That's part of our culture, right? That's a part of our way of life, of our understanding, right? If we don't have that, then we're missing a piece of we're missing a piece of the puzzle. Right, we have to get ourselves out of that mindset, because like it says, though hand join in hand, the wicked shall not go unpunished, right? And if you don't come out and be separate, right, then you'll be a partaker of the plagues, right? Get Isaiah 61 and read from verse 1.
Isaiah chapter 61, reading from verse 1. The Spirit of the Most High Power is upon me, because the Most High have anointed me to preach good tidings unto the meek. Salakia. He hath sent me to bind up the brokenhearted, to proclaim liberty to the captives, and the opening of the prison to them that are bound, to proclaim the acceptable year of the Most High, and the day of vengeance of our power, to comfort all that mourn in Zion. Right,
because the scriptures make it clear that the time when we are redeemed is going to be the time when the day of vengeance comes, right? And that's to comfort us. Why? Because when the vengeance comes on the heathen, they're going to have to let us go, meaning they're not going to let us go until that point. So how are we going to come out and go into the wilderness? What do you think would happen if we try to up and leave into the wilderness now? What do you think would happen? Right? What do you think would happen? Because they wouldn't allow that. They wouldn't allow that because they'd say something along the lines of, well, that's our land, or something like that. Because they argue over land now, land that isn't occupied. So if someone goes to occupy a certain land, then people say, well, that belongs to us. Right? They argue over that. Right? So we're waiting on the Most High, right, in our captivities, right, wherever we are. Right? We're in a spiritual wilderness, not in a physical one. Right? And this is comfort to us. The acceptable year of the Most High and the day of vengeance, right? It's meant to be a comfort to us because the Most High is going to save us out of our captivities, right? Get Isaiah 48 and verse 10.
Isaiah chapter 48, reading from verse 10. Behold, I have refined thee, but not with silver. I have chosen thee in the furnace of affliction.
Right, he has chosen us in the furnace of affliction. So when the scripture says that we're going to be in the wilderness of the people and we're going to pass under the rod, that is the furnace of affliction, right? Because we are in the furnace of affliction now because we have affliction all around us. The nations don't hold us in the right stead. They don't hold us in the right in high regard, right? They don't do that, right? So we're at the lowest, right? We're the lowest, right? We're the first fired, last hired, right? Wherever we are, that you'll find us in the ghettos of every single nation on the earth, right? And he chose us in that furnace, right? Because he had to refine us, he had to humble us, right? That's what he had to do, and that's what he did. So when we're passing through that rod, the Most High was humbling us, right, to bring us into the covenant, right? And that is, remember, if that's the wilderness of the people, if we're in the wilderness of the people now, we're passing under that rod now. That's how the Most High is weeding us out, right? That's how he's weeding us out. So get me Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 9.
Zechariah chapter 13 and verse 9. And I will bring the third part through the fire,
right?
And will refine them as silver is refined, and will try them as gold is tried,
right?
They shall call on my name, and I will hear them. I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Most High is my power. Right.
So the scripture's saying the exact same thing again, right? It's talking about us going through the fire, the third part, right? Because 2/3, the scripture says, aren't going to make it, right? You're going to be cut off, right? Yeah, right. So this third part is going to go through the fire. The elect is going to go through the fire, right? In the wilderness of the people, in this spiritual wilderness that we're all in now, right? And we're going to pass through that because this affliction is going to get hotter. It's going to get hotter for a period because this is the light part of it. Because they're going to try to push their agenda on us even more to bring in their new world order. That's what they're going to do. So it's going to get... it's going to get rougher than this.
But what I was going to interject is that, as I said, the scriptures are twofold. You must understand when the Creator is speaking, he's not speaking and he's talking about one period of time. So when it talks about the 2/3, 2/3 shall be cut off and die, he's not just talking about 2/3 in one era or one era of time. He's not just talking about that. He's talking about in the whole of the existence of the Israelites, from the time they were taken away to the time when I redeemed them, 2/3 of them are going to be cut off. So even if we get a harsh punishment, and not a harsh punishment, but a harsh time at the end, and 2/3 at this time get cut off, 2/3 of the whole of Israel, for the history of Israel, is going to be cut off. That's what he's saying. He's not just talking about one time. That's what people got to understand. They misunderstand the Creator, misunderstand him totally. That's what I'm saying. So when it comes to Jacob's trouble, Jacob's trouble is multiple. It's not just one place. It's multiple. And I'm gonna give you another scenario. This is for those who like to understand spiritual things. I'm gonna give you another scenario, right, in regards to Jacob's trouble, because when you read Jacob's trouble, and I'm only putting this in a quick little thing, right? It says that when Jacob's trouble comes, it says Michael was going to stand up, right?
Mm-hmm.
Let's read it. Yeah. Let's get it, and then we're going to come back to what you were saying, right? So don't forget what you were saying.
Daniel 12. Daniel chapter 12, and read it from verse 1. And it says, "And at that time shall Michael stand up,
right,
the great prince which standeth for the children of thy people.
Right.
And there shall be a time of trouble, such as never was since there was a nation,
Right.
even to that same time.
Right.
And at that time thy people shall be delivered."
And at that time thy people shall be delivered. Now I'm going to tell you this. When they were taken into Babylon, there was no signs of fightings in the heaven. When they were taken into Medo-Persia, there were no signs of fighting in the heaven. The only time you hear of fightings in the heavens, where you could see angelic hosts in the heaven, was in what era? In the Grecian era. That's why it says. That's the
beginning, or
that was the in earnest, when it really the fire started to come down, because what they were trying to do, take away the culture, take away the knowledge, take away the history, take away our practices, our holy days,
everything.
Right? And what happened is the Maccabees, when they were fighting against the Greeks, they saw the chariots in heaven. Yeah. So when the scripture says, "In that day shall what? Michael," read it.
The great.
And at that time shall Michael stand up,
right,
the great prince, which standeth for the children of thy people.
Standeth for the children of thy people. Because why did all that happen? Was because Michael was fighting for us. Why did we not lose everything right then and there? Why are we not conquered? Because Michael was fighting for us. Michael was fighting for us. Okay? That's what it's telling us. Okay? So the point is that you can't just look at the scripture and just say, oh, it's
one thing.
Yeah, it's pigeonholed into one place and one time. You have to understand the whole thing.
You have to unravel it.
You have to unravel the whole thing. It's one thing. It's not in multiple parts. It's one thing. Right? Michael the archangel should stand up, right? So the point is, what I was trying to bring out, what was you reading? Zechariah?
Yeah, Zechariah 13 and 9, yeah.
Right? And it says, I will bring them through the fire.
Yeah, I'll bring them through the fire and refine them as silver is refined.
Right?
And try them as gold is tried.
And I will try them as gold is tried. Read on.
And they shall call on my name, and I will hear them.
Right.
I will say, it is my people, and they shall say, the Most High is my power.
Right, because the fire and the silver and the gold refined in the fire was us going through the captivities which really bear burden on us, which was in earnest. It was the real beginning of Jacob's trouble. Even though Jacob's trouble is everything, it's to do with the whole house of Israel. It's not just to do with one part. Because if you're going to say, oh, it's just now, then Jacob was never in trouble before then. That don't make sense. He was in trouble from Assyria. Okay? That's the facts. That's the facts, not what I'm making up in my head. But my point is that this scripture just makes it a bit more clearer in regards to, the refining process. The refining process. Which is going through the tribulation. But anyway, carry on.
Right, and like I was saying, this captivity is gonna get worse because they want to force this new world order on us. They want to force this new world order, but they don't understand that the Most High is gonna bring in His true world order. Right, He's gonna bring in the original order. Right, He's gonna bring it back. Right, because they've been trying to push this new world order for a long period of time. It isn't just now they're trying to push it. They've been inserting their ideologies over time, right? They've been inserting their ideologies over time because they were homosexuals back then, right? But now they're just starting to, what they want to do is put it into law so they can say it's okay to do it.
And do it openly.
Right? Yeah, and do it openly, right? That's what they want. So slowly they're trying to build their little new world order on the earth, right? So this thing is going to get worse, right? Because they know their time is short, right? So read Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10.
Revelation chapter 3 and verse 10. Because thou hast kept the word of my patience.
Right, so because we've kept the word of his patience, meaning we've waited on the Most High, and we've separated ourselves from the system, right, in our minds, right? We're no longer in their mindset. We're in the wilderness of the people, right? And we're patiently waiting on the Most High, right? What will he do?
I also will keep thee from the hour of temptation.
Right, so he'll keep us from the hour of temptation, meaning that he'll give us a way out, right? There'll always be that way out for his people, right? He'll always protect us as long as we stand on his word and stand on his way, right? So read on.
Hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world.
Right, because it's going to come upon all the world. So we're going to be, because what they're going to do is, remember, if it's a new world order, it's going to encompass the whole world, right? And if they're going to try and force it on you, right, force this on you, then you're going to have to be around them for that to happen. You're not going to be in some other place where nobody is, right? So it's there, and it's there to try us as well, because this is all a test to see who truly loves the Most High, who truly is gonna come out right from the people, from the world, and from the love of the world, and who truly loves the Most High, right? Because this society and this kingdom isn't built for us, right? Get me Revelation chapter 18. And we're going to read from verse 9.
Finish it out. Try them that dwell upon the earth. Revelation chapter 18, verse 9 to 10. Verse 9. And it says, and the kings of the earth who have committed fornication and lived deliciously with her shall bewail her and lament for her when they shall see the smoke of her burning, standing afar off for the fear of her torment, saying, alas, alas, that great city Babylon, that mighty city, for in 1 hour is thy judgment come.
Right, so when the vengeance of the Most High comes, right, if we are patient and we wait upon the Most High will protect us from that time, right? And we will enter into the kingdom. But you have to be ready and prepared. You have to be in the wilderness of the people. What's that? The coming out of the mindset of the world, right? And those that have already come out of the mindset of the world are already in the wilderness of the people. Right. That's where we're gathering spiritually until we can gather physically in the land. But that's where we're going to gather physically. That's where we're going to gather physically. But spiritually now, we're all gathering in the wilderness of the people. That's where we are, all in our respective captivities. Right, so the wilderness of the people isn't a physical place, right? Because the scriptures would make it clear if it was a physical place, right? Because it would say the wilderness of the people. Where is the wilderness of the people? There's people everywhere. So where is it, right?
Not only that, it says the angel going to come and collect the saints from their captivity. It says that the Father is going to come and gather us out of all the nations. It's not saying there ain't going to be Israelites that are going to make pilgrimage to Zion, because that's another avenue, another thing that's going to happen. There's many things that are going to happen. Many things are going to happen to redeem the house of Israel. Messiah was the first. He was the catalyst for everything to be able to happen. That's all Messiah was. He was a catalyst. He gave himself so that the Most High would endow him with the power to do the things he's going to come and do. Okay, which is redeem the house of Israel. Okay, so there's many things that are going to happen, right? We could talk on other topics in relation to this, but we're not going to deal with that because this topic in itself is a big enough topic. If we go on to other things which are relating to this, it would be longer than what it needs to be. So this topic is the wilderness of the people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Wilderness of the people. Now, if you're going to say, well, we're going to be brought into a land, according to what is written, it doesn't make sense. Not to how I see things or I can see things, right? It doesn't make sense. If you deal with it as according spiritually, because guess what? We're in a spiritual Babylon, right? We're in a spiritual Egypt. We're in a spiritual Sodom and Gomorrah. So now, when you read in Wilderness of the People, then you say, okay, if he brought us out to Egypt and he's going to talk to us just like how when he talked to us when he brought us out to Egypt, that connotation is not saying, oh, you're going to be like how you was when you came out of Egypt, because we're not in Egypt now. We're not in literal Egypt. Our captivity is spiritually understood. So if we're in the wilderness of the people, and he's going to speak to us just like how when he took us out of the land of Egypt, it's also spiritually understood that we're in the wilderness of the people. That means it's a mental thing, not a physical thing. It's a mindset, not a physical thing. Okay? That's how I understand it. That's how I see it. Right? What anybody else got anything to add on?
So after going through the scriptures, we can see that the wilderness of the people isn't like my elder was saying, isn't a physical place, right? Wilderness of the people, right, is a mindset. So you come out from keeping the pagan holidays, pagan festivals, and you're coming out and you're starting to go back to our culture, right? Because when we came out of Egypt, we had to strip ourselves from the understanding of the Egyptians, right? The understanding of the Egyptians, right? So what they tried to give to us, the same thing that they're trying to do now, right? In terms of them forcing their ideologies upon us, right? So we have to take that away from us, and we have to start to learn the things the Most High wants us to do, right? So when we were in the wilderness, right, we were given the commandments. So now we're in the wilderness of the people. What are we being given again? The commandments, wherever we are, and this is the time now for us to learn before we go into the promised land, because the time's going to come where we're going to be on the edge of the Jordan again, right? And the Most High is going to say to us, right, go in and take it, right? And you have to be prepared, because the scriptures say the saints of the Most High shall take the kingdom. It says they shall take the kingdom, right? And if you're afraid, right, you're not going to enter in. Right? Because what happened? We ended up wandering around the wilderness for 40 years. But that 40 years isn't going to be 40 years anymore. It's going to be eternity, right? Meaning you can't enter into the kingdom, right? So it's important that this time that we enter in, right? So be like Joseph and Caleb, right? Which spiritually represent Ephraim and Judah, because they are from those tribes, right? So they are the northern and southern kingdom coming back together as one, right? And they said, if it pleases the Most High, if it delights the Most High, then let us go down and take it. And it does delight the Most High, so we need to go down and take it, right? The Most High has brought you out into the wilderness of the people, into this mindset for a reason. He's woken you up for a reason, and the reason is to take the kingdom. So if you want your spot, take it, because it's there for you to take, right? It's there for you to take, right? Did you have anything to add? No.
There's quite a few scriptures there. I hope you got some edification from that. on the wilderness of the people. If you do have any additional questions or insights, then you can leave it in the comment section. You can either leave questions or whatever, and we'll try and get back to you as soon as possible. But just listen to it. You might have to listen to it once or twice to get some of the scripture, because I know there's a lot in there. And just let us know. Make sure that you like the video for us and share it, because that's the most important thing for us, that you share the podcast so more people can get the understanding and the wisdom of the Most High. Because like we said, the time's short for us now. So we're spending our time to get this word out there to the masses, because the scripture makes it clear to us in Matthew 24:14 that once this gospel is preached to the whole world, then the end can come. And that's what we want. We want an end to this captivity. We want an end to this trouble that we're in, so we can enter that kingdom of the Most High that's written in the scriptures. And with that, we're going to close out and say all praises to Yahweh, B'Hashem HaMashiach Yahushai. And that's been another episode of the Prophecy and Precept Podcast. This is episode 16. Make sure you check out the other episodes that are written down, that are uploaded to the YouTube, Israelite Apostolic Heritage. And make sure you give them a like, give them a share. And we'll see you in the next one. So I say shalom.